now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have Jason Jestin with us. He is from Perth, Australia, and he is going to be sharing with us today the topic of the value of values. Guys, welcome Jason. Jason has really taken a lot of time to give us value here, and he wanted to ensure that his presentation is going to be worthwhile, and he's going to present so many things, so keep listening and keep your eye on the ball. Okay, guys? Hi, Jason.
Hi,
I leave
Tulsi.
you to do the introduction.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I just really feel honored to be here and to have the opportunity to share, some of these ideas with everybody. This is something that was not really at the top of my mind up until about, say, 3 or 4 years ago, where I had a massive shift in my journey, which is actually something that is part of the presentation that I'm going to explain. But yeah, I hope everybody gets something from it, and it's a little bit long, so hopefully it's not people don't fall asleep. Let's see.
Jason, it's an honor to have you here. Likewise, okay? So I know for sure I will definitely get value here.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, well, look, I've got some slides, and I'm just gonna give me like a few minutes to just organize myself, if you don't mind.
No worries, take your time.
Cool. Okay. Just a moment. Okay.
You got kangaroos running all over your screen.
Oh. I wish. I haven't seen a kangaroo for a little while. Okay.
There we go. We can see that.
Yeah. Can you see? Yep. Can you see me? Can you see?
I can see you. I can see the yellow background. I see the topic, the value of values.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Just a second. Gosh. Okay, great. I'm going to make a start then. So, what is the value of values? You are not your net worth. Your net worth is not worth the value of the paper its financial denomination is written on. But despite that, when you ask people what does success mean to you, the majority of people actually say money. So here's my take on success, value as it relates to worth, how money plays into all that, and the profound value of values. So firstly, to let you know, I grew up poor by Western standards, by current Western standards. And, our family dealt with many issues, but a lack of money seemed to be the significant factor. So I really got that money mattered, and I became a chartered accountant. 20 years on, I was a picture of success in some way, on paper that is. Married, newborn son, a finance director at a prestigious advertising agency. And I was able to provide anything my family desired, except myself. For a long time, I'd been feeling disillusioned, from a lack of creative self-expression, drowning in admin and Excel spreadsheets, and having no meaningful impact on what genuinely mattered to me, which was empowering people. But I kept going, becoming so burnt out that when I was home, I wasn't really, not emotionally. And even though I was desperate to escape my work, I was too scared to let go and jump into the unknown. Why? Because my job, it was who I was. My title was intimately linked to my self-worth and my identity. Boring, dependable Jason. And even more so, I believed that my value to my family, my wife in particular, was largely based on my income. So money still mattered. However, what I've discovered for myself is that money is like the skin of an onion. It's just the surface, but it's not the onion itself, not fully, not even significantly. There are whole other worlds of much deeper, more authentic desires lying hidden, dormant below that surface answer, that are fundamentally at the very core, center, and source of every decision that drives you. And today, I want to unpack all that so it lands for you for how it really is. I'd like you to consider a question. What is the value? What is value, and how is it measured? Is there a difference between value and price? You pay for something, but what is its real value? Now, as an accountant, I can tell you that accountants record the value of an asset into their books at the historical cost or price paid. And that's because it's the most reliable source of measure. But is it relevant? Does the cost or price accurately represent the value? Well, sometimes not. I mean, we know that the cost or price of things changes like stocks on the market. So the price of things might change, but does price move with the value? If something costs more, does it mean it's more valuable? Well, not quite. After all, the value of, say, a bottle of water may mean more to a thirsty person. So it seems possible that something might be of more value, be worth more to someone than its price or cost. And maybe we should consult traditional economic models. After all, they seem to know how this works, what the market value of something is. Remember the old supply-demand curve? But it turns out they don't. At the onset of the 2008 global financial crisis, Alan Greenspan, who you see on your screen now, he was the chairman of the US Federal Reserve, and he was in charge of steering the US economy for 18 years, and he was called in to explain to a congressional committee what was happening in the 2008 global financial crisis. And he had to admit that there was a flaw, or several, in the model everyone perceived as the critical functioning structure that defines how the world works. And that those models and those ways of looking at things that had been relied on up until now in the past actually didn't work. And even when we examine GDP, gross domestic product, a major national key performance indicator, we see that at best it offers a limited perspective because it only includes what can be measured, whether or not it increases the value at all. For example, if there's an oil spill, GDP goes up because it generates economic activity, because it costs money to clean it up. And that shows an increase in GDP. But just to give you another example of its limitation, there are two major sources of what we might consider value that are not at all considered. Firstly, the commons. The air, water, and land, just to name a few, things every human should really have an equal right and access to, but that are being used and abused by industry. The use or degradation of these commons is not at all factored into any balance sheet or GDP because even though they are fundamental, critical, and indispensable, they cannot be measured accurately. Secondly, unpaid but key workers like home carers or people that don't have jobs but perform a function that helps society or specific individuals. If a man or woman needs to stay at home to look after a sick relative and so they can't do paid work, or they're supporting their partner who works, for example, this is a crucial and indispensable function, but it is not measured, so it's not included in GDP. Effectively, not considered to be a valued function. These people are possibly more valuable than anyone, but because they are not generating money, they are considered worthless. And I think that's absurd, and it's detrimental to many people. Okay, so price and value are different. And even traditional economics doesn't really have anything useful to say about that. And some very important, useful, and valuable sectors of society are seen as worthless because they cannot, or they're just not measured. But what about money itself? I mean, it does have a distinct value, doesn't it? It turns out it doesn't. The US used to peg the value of the US dollar to gold, but that all ended in 1971. So really, it's just a means of exchange, a currency. It facilitates transactions, yes, but anything could do that. In fact, tulips once did. In the 1600s, the price of tulip bulbs in Holland soared. A single bulb could cost more than a house. And in some cases, tulip bulbs were used as a form of currency. And these days, we're using less and less paper money. And guess what? It turns out most money is simply a digital accounting entry into the books of the banks. This is a very long and complex explanation, but the point is that price and even money are somewhat arbitrary, and value depends on the individual's situation or perspective. So value is like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder. So what is the value of a person? I'd like to invite you now to imagine back to the first time that you fell in love. Who was that person to you? Where were you? What were you doing? And when was the moment, the exact moment, if you can just recall or just imagine what it must have felt like when you had that sudden rush, that sort of whole body sensation and realization that you were suddenly experiencing a deeply important occurrence, falling in love. Do you remember how that felt? And do you think it makes sense to try and put a price on that feeling and what that person meant to you at the time? Of course not, right? And how does that make you feel about a person's worth being pegged to their income, rather than what they actually mean to you and how they make you feel? I'd like to invite you now to do another little exercise. I'd like you to just free your mind a little bit, and you can close your eyes if you want to. And I want you to give yourself this moment for this exercise, just a brief one, but just to contemplate this exercise and really just take it on. And even if you're just watching this as a recording, feel free to participate, even though it's just a recording. Have some fun with it, okay? Let's say you had enough money that money wasn't at all an issue for you. You earned it fair and square, doing something that wasn't really work for you because you loved it so much. So your concerns and worries about money didn't exist. In that situation, what would you want to do with your life? And who would you want to be? And now, let's go a little deeper. Let's expand things. I want you to imagine now, if you allow yourself, your imagination, to play with this idea for a moment. Let's say you had a magic wand and you could just wave it and anything was possible. Anything. What would you want to do with your life? And who would you want to be? And why would you want to do those things? Be that kind of person? And what would that give you access to? Okay, you can open your eyes now. I hope that was okay. It was just a little taster, but if something came up for you, I want to invite you to just hold on to those thoughts with you, as we continue. See, from my perspective, it's the moments, it's the experiences of life, it's the precious but priceless moments that are of the greatest value. I mean, who cares how much you earn if you don't have time to spend with the people you love the most or to do things you love the most? I mean, what kind of price are we putting on our lives to sacrifice ourselves to pay the ultimate price that way. But of course, back when I was stressed at work, not spending time with my family, I didn't realize it that way. That's because some lessons we only learn the hard way. See, when my son was born, home demands increased exponentially, but so did work demands. A major system upgrade, half the department made redundant, my neck potentially on the chopping block. I was busier and more stressed than ever. My wife would tell me to just leave my job, that she didn't care about the money, which made no sense to me, of course. Money matters a lot. So nothing changed until one summer evening, when coming home very late, as usual, consumed with stress, my wife told me that she didn't want to be with me anymore. She said she didn't know who I really was anymore, that she didn't want this life for her and the kids. And in that moment, something died inside me. Your worth is not your net worth, not your income, not what anybody else tells you it is, and it's not even what you think it is. Your authentic worth, your authentic value, and what's authentically possible for you in life is not related to what you think, do, or anything you have, least of which money. What's possible is governed by your view of life. And the crazy thing is that people are not consciously aware that they see life through a filter. They actually think that what they see and experience in life is how it really is for them and everyone else. I want you to consider that the past restricts your view of life. Like when you got heartbroken, you know, that big one you're still not quite gotten over. And that's when you stopped trusting others and sharing yourself fully. The significant past events of our life create an identity we play out in life. And that is what creates our future. However, what I want you to consider is that anything is possible when you detach and disassociate yourself from your past, from that identity, because it's not you anyway. It doesn't represent your possibility, your future. When you focus on your future, which is unwritten, that is how you become the creator of your life. Because it's the future into which we are living that is the biggest influence on how we show up in life in the present. It's the difference between how you feel on a Sunday night, knowing you have a stressful job to go to the next Monday morning, versus how you feel Friday evening, knowing Saturday morning you're catching a plane to somewhere exotic for a month-long vacation. Imagine your mood and how you might be showing up the Sunday night before that dreaded Monday versus the Friday night before your holiday. And the only reason that causes us stress is because we think, based on past experience, that Monday at the office is going to be stressful. Because most of the time, it has been. Our expectations and anticipation somehow are always fulfilled. So when you detach yourself from your past and the thoughts that keep you stuck about it, that is when you are perfectly positioned to create a new possibility for yourself made up from what you authentically want. What's important here is what you authentically want, not what you think you want. See, our thoughts are not us, not fully us. They are not our identity. We have thoughts just as we have a hand, but our thoughts are a mechanistic process causing us to associate meaning to things. Have you ever noticed that things never just happen in life? There is always a meaning to them, a story that we give. And that story or meaning is what is generated from our thoughts. like when someone cuts you off in traffic and you automatically get triggered to think, how dare they? How rude, how inconsiderate, what bad people. The world is full of them, isn't it? Those meanings, they just land on us. Of all the alternatives possible, we land on those particular thoughts because our default mechanistic operation is to try and find plausible meaning for situations. And those meanings we land on create our filters in life that restrict our identity and what's really possible for us. See, that person that cut us off in traffic, maybe they were rushing to get to the hospital because their wife was giving birth. But we have no clue. We have no clue. But to us, we believe that we know everything that is worth knowing about that. What's missing is a connection to our authentic self, capital S. We are not what we think. There are whole other worlds of intelligences within us. For example, our emotions are actually generated and stored in our body. And that is a source of intelligence as opposed to intellect, which is simply using your mind. And that source of intelligence has a wealth of information. However, most of the time, we're identified with our thoughts only, and we ignore those deeper, more authentic feelings. It takes some vulnerability and courage to take the journey of exploration into that part of us. More men find that difficult than women due to cultural conditioning telling us that it's weak to experience and express our feelings, whereas it's actually the opposite. It's a journey of exploration, much like the adventurers that mapped our world in historical times, when brave people were venturing into the unknown rather than staying stuck in their comfort zone. The world needs more people to take on this adventure and discover these new worlds inside them. You have to find the courage to lose sight of the shore if you're to discover new oceans. That is courage. Although what many experience as aggression, they think is courage. I don't think that's true. In most cases, though, we cling to an identity because it can feel very shaky not to, until something terrible happens in life to cause us to break from that fixation and have the courage to embrace it for what it is, an opportunity. So if you are not your past and not what you think, who are you really? What is at the core of who you are? So my wife said she was leaving me, and something died inside me. And in a way, it was one of the best pieces of news I ever got. Why? Because it was the disempowering identity that I was attached to that died. And that made all the difference. My wife genuinely didn't value me for the money. Can you imagine what a blessing? And so I became free to become who I really wanted to be my real self. The future I was living into was truly unwritten now, a blank sheet of paper waiting to be written on. I was no longer attached to who I thought I had to be. I could be anybody. I was the author, and that felt empowering, liberating, exhilarating. And it was the start of a bold new adventure. Your worth is your potential, unleashed in line with your real value, your unique gifts, and your core values. I want to share a perspective with you about our values and our unique gifts, because every single person on this planet is absolutely unique. You are unique. Now, I'm sure you can appreciate that even biological twins are unique by virtue of their unique experiences in life. Their view of life, their thoughts, their meanings, and their feelings are different. So, what are our values? Our values are those aspects of our being that are most meaningful to us and that shape how we view life. And what are our unique gifts? They are those characteristics that we created in our past in order to survive and make it in the world, and which are the most empowering way for us to live out our life. And because you might now appreciate that the moments in our life are what are most valuable to us, you might also appreciate that our values, what mean the most to us, are at the core of how we can accentuate and enrich our experience of life. Because at the core of that onion, and for example, the reason why we really want things like money is a deep desire, and that is the experience of life. Ultimately, at the core, below the surface answer of money, what we really want to do with that money, what we really want at the deepest core, is simply a rich experience of life. And what gives us the richest experience of life is what has the most meaning to us, and that's related to our values. Not only that, our values, which shape our perspective on life and our unique gifts, our special approach to life, are what we are best placed to give others, to serve others with. They are our real superpower, if you will. And part of why people can feel frustrated with their life is when they're not living in line with their values. And that plays out every day, every minute, everywhere in the world, because people try to mimic others that they look up to, or do things they're asked to do and which they think is reasonable, logical, rational for them to do, but their heart and their body knows it feels wrong. That's how people adopt other people's values and get confused why they become disillusioned or disconnected from themselves, their authentic self, their values. At an even deeper level, they may also feel that their life is sort of being wasted because they're not living out their purpose, which is something that's derived from first identifying their values. In order to discover your values, you need to go through a deep dive experience narrative review with someone like a trained coach in order to tap into your fundamental intelligences, your emotions, and uncover that meaning, the meaning that you have become attached to unconsciously in your life and which are at the source of your values, the discovery of which will allow you to live your ultimate best life, to create your own identity, to be the author of an incredible life of adventure and meaning that is absolutely possible when you first get clear about who you really are. That is the value of values. And it starts with detaching yourself from that limited identity, which isn't even the real you. You see, possibility starts with putting the past into perspective. So you can start with a blank sheet of paper and live a created life, one that you invent and write from scratch. Possibility. And so I was able to detach myself from my past identity, to give myself permission to explore what might be possible. And 4 years on from that fateful summer evening, I've now quit that job. I've now moved countries. I'm now running my own business. I'm now spending my days masterminding with incredible human beings, just like Tulsi, and I'm applying my unique gifts and core values in my unique way, unleashing my potential out to have a meaningful impact in the world that genuinely matters to me. Oh, and I now have an amazing relationship with my wife, plus one new baby girl. Resolving things in your life starts with resolving what is inside you, putting the past into perspective, creating a new possibility in line with your values. That's what you are worth. That's how you create worth. That's how you be worth the most in life. What I'd like to share with you now is about fulfillment. I believe the experience of life and the feeling of fulfillment is a way to describe what we are all really chasing and wanting, for things to make sense, to feel full of substance, to feel full of life, vitality, meaning, not empty or disconnected. But here's what most people miss. The feeling of fulfillment is a byproduct of you as a person fulfilling on your true destiny and your impact. One of the definitions of fulfillment is the realization of a promise or a prediction. So it's about realizing one's full potential. That, to me, is the correct interpretation of success. And it has nothing to do with achieving anything like a certain title or income level, but rather for you to become the truest, fullest, most authentic version of you, fully expressed in word, deed, and impact, in line with your values, using your unique gifts, being of service to a cause that's bigger than you, whether that plays out into a job, a business, a project, or in any other area of your life, like with your family. It's the tree fully bloomed that creates the unique fragrance and the shade of which others get to enjoy, and you yourself may not even, but what matters is that legacy, that potential that you created from a single seed, your purpose. Imagine doing that. Imagine being that person. Imagine making such a profound impact on someone, a group of people, to be the change you want to see in the world. Focusing on what value you can bring to the world, what seeds you can plant based on your values, being of service in a way you want to impact others is the way you are uniquely gifted to. Nurturing a cause greater than you is the key to fulfillment in all its contexts. Creating value is how you live out your values. And I'd like to end this talk with a sentiment. Moments matter way more than money. Meaningful moments, experienced and created, are the source of a profound and fulfilling life. Don't get stuck continuously making a mistake just because you spent a lot of time making it. You are worth more to yourself and to others than that. A mistake is simply a message. Your best teacher is your last mistake. The value of mistakes are in the lessons. It's just part of the process. It's part of practice. If you want change, you have to be the change, or at least be part of it. Whatever it takes, whether you feel sad, angry, frustrated, desperate, it starts with a commitment to yourself. That is the gateway. And it might feel scary to contemplate what it might take. I get it. But it's not that hard, because staying stuck is harder. And it's worth it. All it takes is a simple step in the right direction, because the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. To get the clarity about who you really are and the direction about what you really want and what's possible, you need your values to guide you in order to unleash your true purpose and manifest your ultimate destiny. To be your fully expressed self, no longer an echo, but to be your true voice. You are the possibility into which you live, no longer a caterpillar, but a butterfly. Your transformation is your life's ultimate purpose, and it starts with appreciating the value, worth, and success that can be gotten from uncovering and cherishing your values. Thanks for listening. I hope this is helpful in some way.
Wow, Jason, that was so amazing. Man, it's like, for me, it's really got me, you know?
Oh, yeah?
I mean, yeah, no, it's so much to, I don't even know, not even deep. It's logical the way you put it, and it's, you know, when you think about, I mean, I'm sure you guys in the community right now, when you look back at your life and everything you've done and the way you beat yourself up sometimes, you know, it's we can see from you, Jason, we've all been there. And it's great to have such wisdom from you and other speakers for us to untangle and unravel what has gone on for us, the meaning for us.
Yeah.
Because there's so many duplicates. You cannot be anyone else but yourself. There's only one of you, and that's why we have to unravel this ourselves.
Yeah, you know what, Tulsi, I mean, gosh, I really see people for the possibility that they are, and like somebody was explaining to me the other day that when we're born, we're sort of like a lantern and we have this shine about us. But as we go through life, things fall and stick to us, and part of that's identity, and it starts to cover the shine. And before you know it, sometimes you can be really dim, but the truth is that underneath that, in the core, we are this incredible opportunity, and the other thing is that it's not just us, it's the connection of us, that we're all connected, we are all connected. I mean, it's whether you're religious in any way, which I'm not, but I believe that there is something to be gotten from considering that we're all connected, that you are me and then everybody is us as well. So
as long as we understand these layers and remove the layers, because the shell is keeping us so hard that from, like you say, from the past and the beliefs that we formed and the patterns we created, and we just keep creating a new shell over another shell and another shell. If we could peel that out and just see our core and understand that, like you did mention that story that we tell in our head, that it's a judge don't know of another person, because that story fits for us and helped us for so long. That we come to believe that we are right, but until we don't make mistakes, we don't see that we are actually wrong, and we should just leave an open mind to it. What I mean is, it's very deep. You were right. Your presentation is very deep.
I hope it made sense. Maybe it went a bit like on different tangents,
definitely.
Yeah.
But it's worth seeing it again. For me, on my end, it's worth seeing it again. And hey, guys, in the community that Jason's talk is going to be for life, for you to go back to whenever you need to return to it, in whatever moment of your life you are at, or any crossroad you are at. Sometimes going back on these talks of these different speakers helps to make sense of things. So Jason, the community had questions for you. Do you want
okay.
Yeah, do you want to say something?
No, again, I just want to say, look, thanks very much for giving me the opportunity. It's helped me sort of clarify a few things as well, just in being in creating something, like I was saying, like it helps you find your voice and it distills and refines something, and I just feel that it's actually opened up so many other new aspects that have come, that I realize are starting to materialize, and I need to bring in to be able to serve people.
No, your presentation brought in other questions.
Okay.
Okay, question number 1. Whoa, that's a long question. Hello, Jason. Thank you for sharing such an in-depth profile of yourself with us. Yes, thank you. In South Africa and a lot of third world countries, we see and get sold all the things and ideas that is popular in first world countries. I mean, it even comes through in our sporting choices. What advice can you give to us here in the community and in the world moving forward from this point on? How hard it is to dream or have the lifestyle that is determined by powerful currencies. But this, I mean, it takes 17 times more money to get to the same sort of education level or training to be able to stand on the same level. Yet when people from third world countries are given the opportunity, It's the fear of failing or the level of faith that we have in ourselves that is challenging, so to say. A person who can make up in a country of stronger currency has a lot more chance on that sort of debt as a start to reach one's dreams. How can one view value from this perspective? Okay, I see what is being said here, because I know a lot of people have dreams to be a pilot, and to be a pilot is not cheap. I mean, if we have to think about South Africa and America and England, and if you you have to, maybe you want to go into your pilot training in America, that's the best school. But in South Africa and America, I mean, in South Africa and UK, you still have to pay that same amount. But I think it's the fear of the people who have to pay 17 times more, and understanding how they're going to make up if they do fail, you know, with this step to become a pilot. Whereas in England, you can make it off, you know, you can pay it off quicker.
Right, got you. So you mean like the cost of that program relative to, you know, average income is a lot less.
Yeah. Wow. And I think that also for me was a fear factor to the dream I wanted. I thought my dream was so big that if I fail, I can't pay it off. And
yeah, gotcha.
The value at the age of 18, I didn't see my value.
Yes.
Because I didn't know I was capable to do it, because of that big, massive, that you have to pay this off for the rest of your life now. Will you be able to? Because now you can't get married, you can't have children, you can't, all these things come in.
Gosh. Well, I think there's a lot there. There's a lot to speak to. I think there's different perspectives. So I think there is, on the one hand, I think, like you say, the way the world is sort of like structured these days, you know, and that the value, the cost of something because of the value of the currency, for example, is different in different countries, means that people in different countries have to pay more. It's a much bigger risk. It's a much bigger cost financially, right? Yeah, that's, I don't know. The only word I can think of is that it just doesn't make any sense. It's like really unfair, you know. It's just so unfair.
I agree.
You know, totally, you know, and in a way, you know, even though, you know, I just want to recognize that, you know, I'm me, myself, who I am, and, you know, growing up in the different countries and stuff is very coming from a very privileged perspective, you know. So, you know, it's a difficult one for you know, for me to answer. But what I would say is, and it goes in line with the talk that I was just giving. I think what I like to sort of say to people is like to think into the layers of like the onion. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is going to be a different answer for everybody, but it's like, why does somebody want to become a pilot? Do you know what I mean? Why does somebody want to become a pilot? Because is it I love flying? Is it you know, it pays well and I'm going to be able to get to travel and see different parts of the world? That could be it. But, you know, I think that is worth considering, because the thing is, what I can see in the West, and it's probably a human phenomena in a way, that we just get caught in this cycle of life and we make decisions on what's right in front of us that needs to be done. As, well, I have to do this, I should do this, I have to do that. And somebody tells you something and you watch the media and suddenly it's like, right, this is what I'm juggling with. But we never get a chance to really dig deeper and kind of think, what's important to me really in life? You know, what really matters to me? Because I know people that have been so successful financially in life, for example, financially as an example, but then they get sick or they have a divorce. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like I sort of came really close to that as well. And that's completely changed my perspective on life. And you know what? I can say to you that it was a very empowering thing to happen. As shocking as it was in that moment, somehow I quickly realized the benefit of that. And it opened my eyes up to exploring life from a different perspective. And so, yeah, to answer that question, I think, you know, there, you know, like I think if we can get to the essence of what we really, really want, you know, and that's not a quick thing, you know, it takes time. But if we can get to the essence of it, there's some information that's really wealthy. There's some rich information there that can really inform us. Because I think, like I said, I think sometimes we see things from another person's point of view, or we believe something is culturally acceptable or desirable, and that's how we create our framework, you know? Yeah, so I don't know if that's a good answer or, but just adding some thoughts to it, you know?
That is good enough. I mean, when I think about that question, I think about how strong is your belief system?
Yeah.
Do you really believe in yourself?
Yeah.
And can you feel inside you that this is what you really want to do? I mean, you will know it. If inside you it's saying, I want to do this, I want to do this, I'm scared, I want to do it, I want to do it, I'm scared. And you keep coming back to it, because that's how it was for me when I left to go to England over 24 years ago on 1,300 pounds to my name.
Yeah.
You know? Wow. It was a gunpoint robbery that kind of led it that way. And I was very scared to get on that plane and think, what's going to happen? And I don't even have the next paycheck to you know, like that next paycheck to decide if I'm going to survive. It was going on a shoestring.
Yeah.
And it was just that inside me was that I'm bigger than this.
Yeah.
You know, I can be bigger and I can be better. And what hasn't happened to me that I didn't make it through?
Yeah.
You know, yeah. But you know, when it came to my studies, I should have had a bigger belief in myself, and also know my value. As you said, know what is my value. Because we had a speaker come on previously, and this speaker, we mentioned in there that what determines a person to lose everything that they have, because you realized in time, and what determines a person to lose in the highest highs and in the lowest lows is values. Will you be aligned to your value all the time and not keep robbing and cheating others, because you are robbing your value and cheating your value until the day comes where the sign, you must sign 1, you must sign 2, you must sign 3, and the signs get bigger and bigger until the sign says, I'm going to have you lose it all. You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, look, I think, you know, like self-belief, you know, fear of failure, all those things, it's not unique to anybody. I mean, gosh, you know, it's like just automatic. It's automatic that we automatically think that all the time. And I think a lot of people talk about enlightenment or awareness, and I don't think there's a magic pill that you can just take and then suddenly, and you have none of those things. Unfortunately, the reality, I believe, from what I've heard and what I've read, is that everybody deals with these things, you know. It's a constant challenge. But like you say, our core values being so important to us, you know, we need to keep reflecting and going, why am I feeling this way? Is this the right thing to do? You know what I mean? Like, is this the most important thing? It's so important. Yeah. But oh my gosh, I mean, just when you tell me that story, I'm just like, wow. I mean, to think that, you know, if I would have known you back then, for example, you know, it would have just been like, oh my gosh, you know, what's going on? But like, we don't know, you know, we don't know. Everybody's just walking around in their head dealing with what's going on here. And we often don't look. And to know you now and what you're doing is like, wow, blown away.
It's because I'm a terrible waitress.
Oh.
I was a terrible waitress. Yeah, but back then we had to survive, and like you say, like these things happen in life, and you don't have the answers, but these things challenge you to make you who you are. To ask yourself, do I want to be a waitress again, and do I want to go through that again? And do I want to live on a shoestring? So what do I have to do now? And I have to strengthen something, and sometimes you don't get it right the next round. You don't get it right the third round, but eventually you get it right if you keep working on it,
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of things that there's a lot more that people can do these days, through like courses and stuff, on the internet and stuff. I mean, not learning how to be a pilot. I mean, I think it's the way the system's set up is you need to go through an approved body, get a certification that's recognized, and then you're in the club. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I do think that the idea of clubs, things like that, started off as a good idea to maintain a standard, but it can also be restrictive, and unfair in a way.
Yeah. It's almost like it's for the exclusive. It kind of makes it look like that. And that's why the risk is higher. And I understand why people are like, wow, the risk is higher. But I think you will know for you. You will know for you, and but that was a long reflection on that question. Let me move to question 2.
Cool.
What an interesting background you have, Jason. When you look back, I mean, so many choices and shiny stuff that comes one's way. What can you say is the advantages and disadvantages of having so many choices and having to stand by one's values? That's a good question.
So many choices. Yeah. It's so strange, to be honest, because, back then when I was, moving around, and, when you look at it from a piece of paper, like somebody's story written on the piece of paper, it sounds great, but the truth is that I was very uncertain about what I was doing. And, I was quite uncertain. So yeah, I actually feel that like 3 years ago, was around that time I had like a series of epiphanies, basically. And for me, the discovery was that there was a whole lot more that I didn't know that I didn't know. So basically, there's things I knew, I was an accountant, I knew different things in life, and there's things that I didn't know, but at least I knew that I didn't know those things. But there was a whole other world which was waiting for me to discover, which I had no idea about. It's completely like a blind spot. And so, I don't know, from one person's point of view, they might say, look, you did this, you did that, you got an opportunity to do this and do that. But there was this underlying sort of like feeling in me that was like really kind of uncertain. And I wasn't even aware of it until like 3 years ago when I had this massive epiphany. And for me, I realized that there's a way to experience life and see life that is just much more connected to yourself. It's like enriching, and I wasn't even aware of it, and maybe I was aware of it when I was a young child, when I had a sense of wonder about things. But so many things happen in our life, and then they stick, and that lantern gets blanked out, and suddenly nothing's coming through, and it's only other people's stuff that's coming onto us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Cool.
Let me move to questions.
Okay.
Because we got 4 questions here.
Cool.
My mom also doesn't drive. Well, my mom also doesn't drive. And I sometimes feel guilty for encouraging her, for not, let me start over. My mom also doesn't drive, and I sometimes feel guilty for not encouraging her. as it is, it's hard to follow through with my own desires and dreams. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because there was an interesting dynamic in my household when I grew up, and I was left feeling that I really wished my mum and both my dad had had a better life, and especially my mum in not doing things that I think a lot of the average people would do, you know, like driving, for example. Um, but I think part of that is what I thought for myself was that it was like a bit of a projection in a way, because I know for myself that if I was that person, if I was my mum, if I couldn't drive, I would feel really disempowered from experiencing lots of different things in life. But um, I, but because I can drive and I know how great it is, I am now not able to consider from her point of view all the things that she enjoys in life, because she just takes for granted that she can't drive. So she focuses on other things and she enjoys her life in a different way. You see what I mean? That's not to say that there might be real situations and challenges that present themselves to her because she can't drive or because of other things that she doesn't do. That's another perspective, you know. Yeah, but at least initially, I thought to myself, do you know what? And my mum, a few times I've sort of said to her, I've like really apologized because I felt like this tremendous guilt. And I was just like, I'm so sorry that, you know, I haven't showed up the best I could have, you know, and, you know, your life is this way. And every time, every single time she says to me, no, Jason, there's nothing wrong. I don't blame you. In fact, I'm very happy, you know, very happy. And yeah, so, you know, so yeah,
Oh,
I don't
bless
know.
her.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moms are moms, right? They don't,
Yeah.
they want you to go out and enjoy your life and live your life. For their time, they have their own reasons, and they made their own decisions in their head. Like we make a decision if we can't be a pilot, you know, we decide to live with it and do. You realize, okay, maybe at the end that isn't for us,
Yeah.
because of all the things that presented in our lives that made us see that we may be meant to do something else.
Hmm.
That is where we are better at. So, you know, I guess it's the same for them.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know, something that comes to mind is that the way I look at like, I see the world as like, you know, everything is a relationship. We have a relationship in our personal relationships. We have, if we're in a job, we have a relationship with our coworkers, our boss, that sort of thing. If we have a business, we have a relationship in the community and with customers and stuff like that. But we also have a relationship with ourselves. So I feel like relationship is like this two-way street, you know, and I feel like it's the communication that is the glue that defines the quality of a relationship, you know, and the relationship between, and communication can be spoken, it can be listening, it can be like sort of the energy or the actions that we share. And I think how amazing, like what other kind of a relationship is there in the world between a child and their mother? Do you know? Like in the just like the symbiosis, they're like one. I mean, like it's incredible to think about it, you know, like there's
Yeah.
no deeper relationship, there's no,
Uh,
you know.
yeah. I so agree on that. So agree, you know. And I'm sorry for you guys in the community that, you know, never got to know your grandma, or you lost your mom, or your dad, you know, and I do give, I send love on that. And I hope you have someone else that you can rely on like that, you know. So I do understand that. But from our perspective, we can definitely share that, you know, that point of view. Yeah, shall I move on to question 4?
Okay. Yep.
Okay, question 4. Maybe you are planning to go into, okay, so yeah, maybe you are planning to go into this already when we see your talk. I'm very curious on the part of filter there is no truth. Filter there is no truth. Please explain further. I was also very curious about that one. There is no truth. Filter.
Yeah. I think, you know, it's about perspective, okay? It's about perspective. So the point I'm trying to make is that I believe that it's very empowering for individuals to see the world as that there is no absolute truth, no absolute truth. That we see the world through a filter, and because the world is like, there's lots of things going on in the world. There's colors, there's sights, there's sounds, there's smells, and there's lots of different things that are happening. But and there's different ways that we sense the world as well, not even just beyond the five senses. There's lots of other senses as well that we have in our bodies, that we don't even know about. But the point is that there is no way for us to walk into a space and be like, I get everything, I see it all, I feel it all, and now I can make a proper decision. The truth is that we as human beings, our brain is only so complex, and so we end up seeing things through what I say, a filter. We narrow down, and certain things come out at us, and it could be colors, it could be a smell or something like that, but it also could be, and the strongest one is actually the meaning that we attach to something. We see somebody do something like getting cut off in the traffic, and straight away we're like, hold on, good, bad, wrong, right, that person's to blame, and I bet that's what happened. I bet that's what happened. And it's like, the truth is, we don't actually know. We don't actually know.
Yeah,
and how this shows up for me is like, when there are any situations, conflict in a relationship, or like even like war and stuff like that, there's no way to win an argument, and it's completely pointless to sort of keep saying, this is how I see things, this is my story, it's my truth, and it's one truth, and I believe that's the truth, and I'm telling you my truth. Meanwhile, that person on the other side is like, my story is this, that's my truth, that's the truth. And it's like, it's just a lost cause. You've got to be able to see, so tell me, how did things occur to you? I can understand how that occurred to you. I get it. I'm not accepting blame. I'm not giving blame, because I really think blame is one thing that's toxic in relationships, especially in the work environment. Whereas actually, if we could just say, listen, I have absorbed this truth, and my ego is very stuck on that story and that meaning, but I have to accept that that's just me, that's my truth, but it's not the truth, not the absolute truth. It's just my filtered way of seeing the world. And if I could just see their filtered way of the world, and if I could explain my filtered way of seeing the world, that's how we reach an understanding. There's no other way.
Communication.
Yeah, communication.
Communication, relationship.
Yeah.
And being honest, to build that honesty, because you can only understand one's truth from no bullshit,
Yes.
So if there's one person giving bullshit, you cannot understand the truth of that person. So trust
is the foundation of all relationships.
Guys.
But you're right.
Use the language. Yeah, okay.
But you're right. If and the reason why people don't, the reason why people, I think, resort to not telling the truth is because they fear that they don't have the tools to basically say, listen, I'm just going to tell it how it is, and I hope you'll accept it, because it takes two people to tango. It takes two people to do that.
Or even to admit, I messed up. Okay, I messed up.
Totally.
Okay. Yeah. And will you forgive me, because I'm going to try not to do it again. And I think your track record will tell whether one should believe you or not.
Yeah, and and I do believe that, I honestly believe that our thoughts, it's that part of ourselves which logical, rational, and all that stuff, and that's the world of the ego. That's how it understands words and rational and all that stuff, and feeling and creation and intuition. That's the right brain. And I feel that there's a wealth of information there, but we often get stuck in the ego world. We often get stuck in the ego world. And I remember getting this real clarity about that. And I was at the office, and that's when I was a finance director, and something had gone wrong. And I had asked the group of people, different stakeholders, what went wrong. And automatically everybody was either scared to say anything because they might have had they felt they might be blamed, or they might think that they were going to dob somebody in that was going to get the blame, or somebody might want to say something to point to somebody else. But I had to use this communication in a way to say, guys, I don't even care who did what or what happened. That bears no relevance to me. I don't even care about that. All I care about is how might we improve things? What didn't go the best way so that we can fix it? And you know what? It took a couple of sentences to really explain it in that way. And once you could see people got it, because they started saying like, well, do you know what? I think maybe I might have done this because, they started to confess to their part and make suggestions as well, and at that point I was very, again, to say, listen, it's fine. Don't worry about it. There's no blame here. Yeah. What should we do? Let's focus on the future, not the past. Yeah.
Yeah. Job can be like that, especially when they feel that, the insecurity, the security is actually being threatened. I'm not going to admit, because I need this job. I have to, I have to maintain and look after my family, etc. So, and job makes it like that, makes the toxicity like that, because people are in fear of losing it, and they don't want to talk the truth. When you just simply like, hey guys, we don't want to get anyone out of here. We just want to fix it so that and know where it went wrong, so that the glitch doesn't come back. And we want to improve things. Sometimes you need good people like that. And unfortunately, I have to say, in South Africa, there's a lot of jobs that are toxic. Yeah. And I was lucky and privileged to be in first world countries and work with nice people. Not only first world countries, but I was privileged and lucky to be with nice people to show me that it's okay to say the truth, because we all want to, our mission of this company is one, and you part of the mission to take it forward. That's why we need to fix it. It's not about losing a job. Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I do think there's that fear of judgment, that fear of blame, embarrassment, all that stuff. It's very disempowering. And I do think it should be the job at the highest level to promote this real teammanship, there's a book my friend told me about. It's called The Fearless Organization. And at first I thought it was about aggressive venture capitalists, defeating everybody. But it turns out the message is about how do we get the most out of people, even from the perspective of the employer. How do we get the most out of the people, and how do the people give the most? How do they bring their full selves? Well, they bring their full selves, and they can bring that. They can feel safe to be creative, to make mistakes, those sorts of things. I think that's a very powerful approach to work and business and management and leadership. I think that we need that to take hold. Because I've experienced it both ways, and it's like, it just makes everybody, and the company is the one that benefits as well. It just
that's true. That's so true. There's so much to learn from, and it's thanks for that book. I might look it up as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's Jason Jestin. Do you have anything else to say today before we close, Jason?
Gosh, wow. Thank you very much for listening. If you listened, thank you for the questions. They were like really thought-provoking, quite challenging in their own way. And, again, just to say, I'm not sure how what I shared landed with you guys, but it's I don't want it to be perceived as sort of like, like this is the truth, this is the only truth, because as you know from what I said, I don't believe that there is like an absolute truth. I think I believe in empowering people, and I believe in giving them an access to stuff, and that's how it was intended, to explain things in a way that might open up a part of people that's quite unique to them, to get some insight, for themselves. And it's just a great honor. I love the opportunity to do that. And yeah, I hope it's helped in some way. So, and thank you for the opportunity, Tulsi. I think what you're doing is incredible, and you're amazing.
Likewise.
So thank you so much.
Likewise. I really loved the presentation. Like it opened up new avenues for me to think. So yeah. So that is all from us today, guys. And we really appreciate your time today, Jason. Really, and the time we've taken to do this presentation, you took it so seriously for our benefit. So guys, that's all from us today, and see you on the next. Bye.
Bye.